Hi, this is Jim Rapond, and this is Seattle Real Estate Chat. I'm joining you today with Rhonda Porter. Rhonda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Jim. I'm Rhonda Porter, and I'm a licensed loan officer at Mortgage Master Service Corporation, and I'm also the author of the blog, The Mortgage Porter.
And by the way, I heard you got nominated for something. Was that yesterday? Tell us about that.
Well, I'm actually a finalist in 3 categories, which when I first saw it, honestly, I thought it was a typo, but it's at the Washington Association of Mortgage Professionals Leadership and Humanitarian Awards. And so, so I'm a finalist in the loan officer category for outstanding loan officer, and then also my blog is a finalist in 2 categories too, the mortgage porter. So it's pretty nice. I've been a finalist actually, since every year since 2011. I think they just started in 2011. Yeah, but this is the first time I've been nominated for 3 things.
And one of those is for the best loan officer, right?
Yes. Yeah, basically.
I could have told them that. They just asked me, and I could have told them that. Anyway, that's great. Congratulations.
Thank
you. Deserve it, and I hope you.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me blush.
Well, it's okay. We'll turn down the red on the.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so today our topic is really this last quarter of 2014 market predictions. We just started into October, and the market seems to be slowing down a little bit. But that is traditionally what it has done in the past, except that in the last 5 or 6 years we've had a very volatile market, so it hasn't always followed what had been historically a very predictable pattern. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that, especially for those who are not real estate professionals and don't necessarily follow all of that inside track talk. And don't notice that that's the way the market works. But the reality is, and it's kind of simple when you think about it, that you have this period that's sort of a rush in spring where people purchase and sell homes, and then people want to take vacations. So you have a lull usually in August where people they're either vacationing, and if they are families with children in school, they've probably made decisions prior to that so that they could get moved in, and when September school starts, then they'd be all settled and so forth. So that month tends to be a little slower, at least compared to June and May and March. But then again in September, things take off again. People get settled into, school started, things are going at full speed at work, not a lot of vacations going on. And so we have a big bump in activity that really kind of runs up until about this time of year and then starts to slow down a little at a time, not a dramatic drop-off, but slows down a little at a time until you get right around Thanksgiving, maybe a week or so before then, where people start to get distracted with all of the holiday stuff. Thanksgiving, people often take off to grandma's for Thanksgiving dinner, and they get ready for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever. Their holiday season is upon us, and people are focused on shopping and all of that sort of traditional stuff. So, and then we have a spike that starts at the beginning first couple weeks of January. And when I say a spike, it's not dramatic up. It's more of a gradual climb that goes all the way up through February, March again. So that is starting to take hold, and we're seeing it in some numbers. And are you experiencing that as well in the mortgage side of things, Rhonda?
I am. I am actually seeing a little bit of a spike with I'm using the word spike now too, I think, because you said it, but an increase with some of my pre-approved buyers, and some of these are people that have been looking for homes for well over a year, and they are determined to find a home. I don't know if it's because of the low interest rates have them going again, or still hanging in there and wanting to find a property. But they're providing the updated information and dusting off their pre-approval letters, and are trying to actively find a home. And they're probably before the holidays, hoping to close before Thanksgiving and Christmas and whatnot.
Right. And you're absolutely right. There are some specific niche markets of buyers and sellers that aren't affected at all by those types of things. And your pre-approved, been looking for a while buyer often sees this as an opportunity to get in where the market is not as hot and they're not in as many of multiple offer situations, and so they see that as good timing. And then of course there's other markets like the international market. We've been talking a lot about the Asian market and how much that's been affecting the Bellevue and Seattle markets, because huge are buying, and mostly in cash, properties in the Seattle area, and they're not normally affected by that. If anything, you have the Chinese New Year, which is a big deal that will probably affect things in early January and so on. But at any rate, that's a big part of our market now. So it's not like the market's slow. In fact, if I'm looking at daily pendings, they're just as high percentage-wise compared to listings as they were 4 months ago. It's just that the whole volume is down maybe 10% from its peak a few months ago. But some of the other markets that are a little different too are the condo markets. Have you been doing many of condo sales or mortgages lately, Rhonda?
I just had a request for some quotes on condos just yesterday, actually. So it hasn't been. I probably have had more single-family detached homes actually lately than condos, but I am starting to get some more condo activity picking up too.
Yeah, and the other thing about the condo market that is kind of an opportunity now is that more of the single-family housing markets have caught up to the peaks of the past. Most of the peaks in the Seattle area, as many people know, were in that fall of 2008 or within 3 to 6 months either way of that. And then after that we had the mortgage kind of meltdown and the depreciation or devaluation of values for several years until 2011 probably. At any rate, it's been climbing as everyone knows for the last 2 or 3 years, and in some cases has surpassed those peaks, but in the condo market, very few. There's still a lot of those areas where there's some good buying opportunities. So I thought I would share some of those. There was a good article in the Seattle Times here. Let me see if I can screen share that for folks. It's always tough when I do this when I'm live, but let me see if I've got it here. Is that the one? Yeah, okay. Can you see this one?
I can.
Okay, good. So condos are still digging out from the bust, and that if you were to Google that, you'll find this Seattle Times article. Actually, what I've done is I've blown up the map, the interactive map that they have, which I think is the most interesting in the Seattle area. So these green areas, Redmond, Kirkland, and Seattle, are the only areas where condos have met or exceeded their peak 2008 prices.
Wow.
All the others are fairly dramatically lower still. So the red being the furthest below. So if I can open up the legend here. Okay, can you see this? More than 30%.
Yeah.
Below peak median. So basically, all of your Renton, Kent, Burien, Federal Way areas, and even most of the east side of I-5 corridor in South Seattle is more than 30% below the peak, and that's still pretty low.
Right.
And then of course these others are lesser so. So less than 15%, and again you're getting into more desirable neighborhoods around. So that's not true with single-family homes. We're talking just condos now. So, but I think that's important for people to know and see that there's opportunities there. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. There was another one here. Let me go back and look again. Sorry, Rhonda, I've got the camera on you while I'm looking. But there was another one here I wanted to share too in terms of articles that talk about what's going on with the market and how it's probably going to go over the next while. This is the Zillow, and Zillow is very good for both market predictions and just historical stats. I give them a lot of credit for bringing a lot of great information to the public. Here we go. So this is Seattle. Does that work? Oh, this is Seattle home prices and values here, and they break it up by area, and you can actually break it up yourself even further. Right now, the median price for a single-family home, again, this is not condos, is $465,400. So, and this green area here is their prediction forecast for the next, I believe, that is kind of set to go forward. I mean, at a steady climb. Obviously, everybody in these situations is working from a crystal ball, but they're using a lot of analytics in that crystal ball. This is not just guesswork for them. They're using projected employment rates, interest rates, future demand based on availability of new construction, all that kind of stuff. So we're probably looking, and this is probably a good place to start, at about a 5 to 6% growth over the next year. So, and I think it looks like to me that the plan, at least with the current set of situations, unless something else happens, it's a big surprise, that's probably the long-term continued growth rate conservatively. They also mark the Seattle market as extremely healthy, which is a good sign. So it's a pretty safe market to invest in, at least comparatively to other markets in the United States that they track. So I think that this is all pretty good information here. Foreclosure rates are way down, which is a good sign, and we still have about 12% of homes selling under list price, but this will probably rise as if the market slows anymore, because this represents total homes. So, typically people, it used to be if there weren't more than several offers, if there weren't several offers, people would offer less than the listing price if the market had been on the home 30 to 60 days or something like that. But these days that doesn't happen as much. Properties don't stay on the market as long, and they typically do get several offers and often go above. So this is a pretty low number overall. This is what I'm getting at, which means that it is a very healthy market. So that's really kind of all I had to talk about here. Oh, rental rates also. I think it's important to mention these because, especially for investors who are purchasing, but we have had a really strong increase over the last few years in rental rates. These are the median Seattle rental rates, and these include apartments and houses. But in 2012, it was $1,756. I don't know if you can see that, and now we're well over 2,000, 2,050, something like that. So that's a pretty darn big increase, and it's expected to continue.
Does it say what type of home that is for, Jim? Or
it's a 2-bedroom, and it includes apartments and houses.
Wow.
So, yeah. So and I've had clients that have 2-3-bedroom condos that they've still got mortgages on that are pretty reasonable, $1,700-1,800 a month, and thinking, well, maybe, gosh, the market's high. Well, what if I sold it and rented? I said, if you rent, that's going to be about $2,600. They went, what? So it's not a good time to sell just to turn around and get a profit and rent, because your rental rates will be high. If you're not locked into a lease, if you may need to be ready for the shock value when your landlord says it's, by the way, if you want to renew your lease, it's going to be a 10, 20, 30% increase, depending on how long you've been there, on your rental rates, which might be a real motivation, again, to buy. Last week, if you hadn't followed us, actually a couple weeks ago in our last episode, we talked in depth about how it's a good time to buy in terms of just the costs of renting versus buying and all of the advantages of that, just economically. So we may want to revisit that. I can put the link to that for people who are really not quite sure and haven't penciled that out. Because if you're paying current market rents, it's not too much less than what you would be paying if you were just making a mortgage and paying your taxes and all that. Right,
especially after you factor in the tax benefits too.
Right, yeah, and we didn't really talk about the tax benefits all that much because we can't. I mean, we're not tax specialists, but there are some tried and true formulas. It's pretty easy to talk to a CPA and get the numbers you need that show, okay, at the end of the year, you're going to have certain tax benefits here, and if you average that into what your monthly mortgage costs are, you're going to be saving a good bit. So.
Right. Hey, Jim, I got a question for you about the condos, since we touched on those being still a good opportunity. Is there a lot of condos for sale right now? I mean, how do they compare as far as single-family dwellings?
Yeah, great question. There are not very many for sale, unfortunately, in the Seattle market, but in those markets where I pointed out it's fairly dramatically below the peaks, there are a good many. So if you're willing to live in Linwood or Renton or places like that, inventory is still pretty high, and prices are pretty low.
Hmm.
So the problem is in the close-in Seattle market, and it's pretty dear, and there's pretty low inventory still there. That will 15, as many of these new things you've been seeing all these cranes around town. Well, a lot of those are going to turn into finished products, and there may be a little bit of even a glut on the market of condos in the Seattle market. And when I say a glut, I say that facetiously because it's really just less of a inventory disaster, meaning there'll be enough to go around, and so you might have to see multiple offers and stuff. There are still, though, condos that they're so high demand that are taking reservations, requiring people to waive their financing conditions just to reserve a spot and have their deposit be completely forfeited if they back out or can't get financing. And that's again one of those tactics. I hate to see that because it puts buyers in a very precarious situation. They're really rolling the dice with the economy and the whole what the future will bring in a way that they just can't control. So, but people are stepping up to the plate because some of the units that are in that situation are very prime units that will be coming on the market.
Yeah, it did almost. I can hear a voice from a gentleman that wasn't one of my clients, but someone that had called me looking for help because he had done that before the meltdown and then was caught with a condo situation like that, where he had a significant earnest money that he was going to lose, and it was, because everything kind of imploded. So, I mean, hopefully, I don't anticipate seeing something quite as dramatic as that happening again, but it was still, boy, you sign away your earnest money or are at risk of that with a situation like that.
Absolutely, and I remember several situations like that too, and it was pretty sad to see. But people have short memories, and some people had not experienced that and are not so worried. It's the economy probably will be fine. We're looking at pretty positive numbers on many fronts, but things happen.
Right.
And the mortgage meltdown came without most people seeing it. I mean, there were a few pundits who were saying the handwriting's on the wall, but most of us were, moving forward thinking that, this might be a minor blip and it'll pick up again. Well, we saw what happened. It was a pretty major bloodbath out there for a few years. So anyway, there are many opportunities that you don't have to get into those kinds of high-risk situations, either with new condominiums and in any resale situation. That's not going on. So, and again, if you're just willing to get slightly into the outlying areas, lots of opportunities there.
Right.
So we're already out of 20 minutes here.
That happens every time.
Yeah, it does every time. We'll probably next week. I'll probably be. I think I'm going to be in a seminar that I'm not teaching, but will be in. So we may have another week break if that's okay, and just do the week after. So we're starting to get into a pattern of every other week, and we may just make that a standard so that people don't wonder. But we always post it in advance. Twitter, it's under hashtag Seattle RE Chat, and then of course you can go to Google Plus, and we put the event there, and on Facebook. I mean, it's pretty much everywhere. So if you look for it, you'll see it. Seattle Real Estate Chat. So thanks so much. If Rhonda, you want to tell them a little bit about your blog before we go? And
oh my gosh,
we've also got a seminar coming up, right?
Yeah. Well, we have a class coming up.
A class coming up. That's what.
Yes, we do. Well, I mean, just my blog's been around. Oh boy, 7 years, or I don't know if it's 7 or 8 years now. I need to go back and count. 8 years. I'm going on 8 years actually, and but it's just a lot of information about mortgages. I write for consumers typically, and just answer the questions that I'm asked, during the day. So it's become quite the resource, and more than what I ever anticipated it being. So it's just mortgageporter.com. And then Jim and I have a class coming up, a homebuyers education class, on November 8th, Saturday. And at these classes, you are not only do you learn about the home buying process. Jim covers all the things that you need to know about buying real estate, and things like, what does a real estate agent do? I mean, just there's a lot of questions that buyers have, and you address that, Jim, and then I talk about mortgages, the mortgage process, and then different programs available through the Washington State Home. Oh my gosh, Washington State. Yeah. Oh man, I need more coffee. But they offer things such as down payment assistance programs, and then also the mortgage credit certificates, which are a tax credit that students are eligible for if they attend the class. So, and that's going to be at Greenwood.
Right. The Finney Ridge or Greenwood Library, I think it's the same thing. On about what is that? About 80th or 82nd and Greenwood.
Yeah.
It's a newer library. I've fairly new. I've taught in the library since there was the old library there, but yeah, it's got pretty good parking back behind and near the fire station there, and it'll be from 11 to 4 on November 8th. That's a Saturday, and there's a registration link if you're watching here with webinar Jam. It'll show right, but we'll also put a link in the notations of this so that you can see where it is. But if you want to register, I know I've got a permanent registration link at seattlechat.com/registration, and you go to that anytime, and it will take you to whichever one. If we're having one in January or February, March, whatever one is happening, it automatically points to that particular. It's Eventbrite, right? Is that what Crystal does?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yep.
One of those invitations. So anyway, they do fill up, so get in early if you can, and you've got a Saturday available because it's worth every minute. So that's it for us today. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I hope there was information that was helpful in there. I will put the information on the links of this on the seattlechat.com site, and if you have any questions, feel free to email us. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Yes, have a great day. See you soon.
Okay. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.